to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. Let's start our time together by taking a nice deep breath in through your nose. Fill your lungs, and as you exhale, release any stress or tension that you're holding in your jaw, in your neck, in your shoulders, in your back, the base of your skull, and your hips. And then take another deep breath in through your nose. Hold it for a second or two. And as you release it, release any remaining tension. Bring yourself present. And then let's gently place our palms together and rub them softly against one another, feeling your fingertips. Good morning, Dido, welcome. Feel your fingertips. Feel the tingling, the slight tickle as your fingertips touch your palms, and bring yourself present to being in your body right here, right now. So today I thought it would be interesting to talk about consumerism as a paradigm. And I don't know if you're aware of it, but we have been manufactured to be consumers, which is a very, very interesting concept that most of us are probably not aware of, but it was a deliberate campaign. I'm not even sure when it was, if it was I'm not even going to say because I'm not sure when it started, but the idea was to create a thriving economy by creating demand. And in creating demand, one of the natural fallouts of that was creating planned obsolescence so that things would fall apart or break within a particular period of time and then need to be replaced. Hello, Robert. Welcome. And this mentality, if we take a broader vision of what goes on in our culture and how much of our awareness is taken by advertising and promotion and new products and new and better and more and new improved and all kinds of things that we're programmed into having to have. And I'm wondering if this moment in time gives us the blessing of being able to step back from the mad rush to consumerism and to have greater appreciation for simplicity. I think the other side of consumerism is conservation. And when we think of conservation, I think the natural place that we think of is conservation of nature. And I want to look at some of the ramifications of consumerism that we can just start evaluating for ourselves, because now it's more important than ever to be thinking about our impact on the planet. So consumerism is consuming, right? It's looking outward for our sustenance in a very basic definition. And when we look at how it manifests in our lives, it manifests with the foods we consume. It manifests with the land that we consume, or the space that we consume, the resources that we consume. By very definition, it's all about consumption and acquisition and trying to find fulfillment through this consumption. We're looking outward to say, well, if I get that beautiful house, or I get that wonderful car, or I find the perfect spouse, or I acquire more material things. All of this is saying I need to look outside myself for fulfillment. And maybe another part of conservation is sufficiency, meaning that I, in and of myself, without identification with externalities like material possessions or social status, that I, in and of myself, am sufficient without needing to consume to enhance my well-being and my identity. And for those of you who are popping in, if you're leaving comments, I'm not masterful yet at this Facebook thing. And so I haven't figured out how to scroll through to see the comments. So please don't feel like I'm ignoring you. I so appreciate your being here, and I appreciate your comments, and I will respond to them as I'm able to locate them. But meantime, I just think it's really interesting to step back and take a look at this dynamic that has been so deeply entrenched in our culture and is really responsible for the state of our planet, because we're wanting to consume and consume and consume, and we have, in order to support what we're calling a growing economy, which is really based on a false supposition. Maybe we'll get to that in another podcast, but this consumerism that has overtaken us has seeped into our deepest soul, where we are relying on the outside world to establish our self-worth and to establish meaning. So here someone is saying, and I think it may be Dido, is saying, I love the way you're connecting with the idea that I am enough with sufficiency in terms of consumerism. Exactly, I am enough. So here's what's going to shift the whole state of the world. When we recognize that we are whole and complete within ourselves, then we can live from true values rather than the false external values that we've been enculturated to adopt about our meaning and our purpose and our value related to acquisition and achievement and even performance. So this notion of sufficiency also goes very deep, meaning I'm here as a being that is part of a much bigger picture. And I have my part to play within that just by virtue of being here, by virtue of breathing. And we all are part of a grander organism. With the consumerist aspect, what we're looking at is really the central focus of self and accumulation and individual expansion. Whereas when we look at sufficiency, we have the ability to be much more generous of spirit and in practical life as well. So another aspect of this consumerism that is really interesting, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine from college, and it's amazing to me that was eons ago. anyway, we were having a conversation about the shifts culturally that we may hopefully be facing as a society as a result of the coronavirus, and talking about how it is exposing the failure of our system. So she lives in Seattle, and they have no state income tax. And so their state revenue is founded on consumerism. The amount that people buy is what is supporting the economy. And so we need to look at these things. We need to look at the structures that we've put in place to maintain practices that are completely unsustainable. What we need to do is to generate a greater adoption of what's called a circular economy. So when we look at nature, nature wastes nothing. There is no waste in nature. Things are constantly recycled through the life and death process. Nature incorporates everything. There's no such thing as waste. Waste is a human concept. And that's part and parcel to our consumerist mentality. So looking at our economic systems that are based on generating revenue to support people through the amount that they consume is really a travesty as we stand back to observe it more closely. Because what it does is it locks us into a perpetuating cycle of ultimately destruction, because we're over-consuming, because we're polluting, because we're wasting. And another aspect of this notion of sufficiency is going to shift our manufacturing practices, so that instead of buying a new phone every time a new model comes out, or instead of constantly putting out new models of phones that have, or computers that have the biggest and best and brightest features, what we'll be able to do is to replace parts within the phone, within the computer, within the vacuum cleaner, within the products that we use, so that they maintain, so that we can value instead of volume. So most of us, I think, have been conditioned to be acquiring more and more and more volume of things, rather than things that have high value and that maintain that value over time. One other aspect of this consuming-based culture is measuring the success of an economy on GDP. And what that's about is manufactured numbers around consumption. It doesn't have anything to do with well-being. It doesn't have anything to do with quality of life. It's just talking about dollars and cents as a measure of the health of a culture and of economy. And it's crazy. It's absolute craziness. And what we have the opportunity to do now, hopefully in this time of pause and deepening, at least I hope it's a time of deepening, we get to really take a look and say, oh my gosh, what have we been doing? And how can we recreate this to be something that has substance and isn't based on the superficial, manufactured, acquisitional, external drive for validation through external material means. Let's find our hearts and souls. Let's connect to what's important. Let's deepen our presence here as human beings and the things that we put our attention and our dollars to. We get to vote with our dollars. That let's recognize that money is, what is the saying, money makes the world go round. The thing is that we get to redefine money too. And we get to redefine an economy in terms of trade and sharing value. I've been hearing about all kinds of initiatives arising where people are sharing skills, skill sharing, and barter. So these are new model, not new, really old models, but alternative models to our current culture that invite us to look more deeply at how we can live in a more connected way and find the meaning from our hearts, from the inside out, instead of defining our worth from the outside in. Because it's like, what's your net worth? Well, that's an insane question in terms of really looking at our value, our intrinsic value as humans. And as we connect more to that, we, by default, will connect more deeply with the foundation of life and what makes it meaningful and rewarding. So that's it for my rant today. I just really invite you to take a deep look at how you may be identifying yourself with things and how many of those things you really need and how much of the want and desire for those things is truly yours and how much of it is manufactured from external sources or a conditioning that more is better. So I'm going to just wrap that up today and say I invite you to dig deep. I have so much love and compassion for you. I'm deeply grateful to have you join me, and I hope that you'll be back tomorrow. Take care.